section this evening, we're going to be talking about the Yeti. Because I think we've done Loch Ness Monster, was Bigfoot maybe the last one we did, so Bigfoot Yeti kind of a little bit similar. So that's going to be the topic of this evening's video. I'm going to pre-warn if there's a lot of cuts in this video. I do apologise. It has been like 30 degrees in the UK today. It's now midnight and I wanted it to be a bit cooler, but I live next to a nature reserve, so there's so many bugs, and if I open my window with the lights on I will literally get swarmed. So it's sweaty sticking to my leather chair for me this evening, but anyways, enough rambling, let's get into the Yeti. So the Yeti, once better known as the abominable snowman. That's a great ASMR word. Abominable snowman is a mysterious bipedal creature said to live in the mountains of Asia. It sometimes leaves tracks in snow, but is also said to dwell below the Himalayan snowline. Despite dozens of expeditions into the remote mountain regions of Russia, China and Nepal, the existence of the Yeti remains unproven. The Yeti is said to be muscular, covered with dark greyish or reddish brown hair, and weigh between 200 and 400 pounds. It is relatively short compared to North America's Bigfoot, averaging about 6 feet in height. Though this is the most common form, reported Yetis have come in a variety of shapes. So, let's take a little bit of a look at the history of the Yeti. So, the Yeti is a character in ancient legends and folklore of the Himalaya people. In most of the tales, the Yeti is a figure of danger. Author Shiveta Karl told the BBC, "The moral of the stories is often a warning to avoid dangerous wild animals and stay close and safe within the community. Alexander the Great demanded to see a Yeti when he conquered the Indus Valley in 326 BC. But according to National Geographic, local people told him they were unable to present one because the creatures could not survive at that low an altitude." In modern times, when Westerners started travelling to the Himalayas, the myth became more sensational, according to the BBC. In 1921, a journalist named Henry Newman interviewed a group of British explorers who had just returned from a Mount Everest expedition. The explorers told the journalist they had discovered some very large footprints on the mountain, to which their guides had attributed to Meadow Gangmi, essentially meaning man-bear snowman. Newman got the snowman part right, but mistranslated meadow as filthy. Then he seemed to think abominable sounded even better and used this more menacing name in the paper, and thus a legend was born. In her book Still Living, Yeti, Sasquatch and the Neanderthal Enigma, researcher Myra Shackley offers the following description, reported by two hikers in 1942, who saw two black specks moving across the snow about a quarter-mile below them. Despite this significant distance, they offered the following very detailed description. The height was not much less than 8 feet. The heads were described as squarish, and the ears must lie close to the skull because there was no projection from the silhouette against the snow. The shoulders sloped sharply down to a powerful chest, covered by reddish-brown hair, which formed a close body fur mixed with long straight hairs hanging downward. Another person saw a creature about the size and build of a small man. The head covered with long hair, but the face and chest not very hairy at all. Reddish-brown in colour and bipedal, it was busy grubbing up roots and occasionally emitted a loud, high-pitched cry. It's not clear if these sightings were real, hoaxes or misidentifications, though legendary mountaineer Reinhold Messner, who spent months in Nepal and Tibet, concluded that large bears and their tracks had often been mistaken for Yeti. He describes his own encounter with a large, unidentifiable creature in his book, My Quest for the Yeti, confronting the Himalayas' deepest mystery. In March 1986, Anthony Wooldridge, a hiker in the Himalayas, saw what he thought was a Yeti standing in the snow near a ridge, about 152 metres away. It didn't move or make noise, but Wooldridge saw odd tracks in the snow that seemed to lead toward the figure. He took 2 photographs of the creature, which were later analysed and proven genuine. Annoyingly, this doesn't have a picture, but I'll find it and I'll throw it on screen. I'll wave so I can spot myself when I'm scrubbing through where to put the image. Many in the Bigfoot community seized upon the photos as clear evidence of a Yeti, including John Napier, an anatomist and anthropologist who had served as the Smithsonian Institution's Director of Primate Biology. Many considered it unlikely Wooldridge could have made a mistake because of his extensive hiking experience in the region. The following year, researchers returned to where Wooldridge had taken the photos and discovered that he had simply seen a dark rock outcropping that looked vertical from his position. It was all a mistake, much to the embarrassment of some Yeti believers. So, the next section is Yeti evidence, ? Most of the evidence for the Yeti comes from sightings and reports. Like Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster, there is a distinct lack of hard proof for the Yeti's existence, though a few pieces of evidence have emerged over the years. In 1960, Sir Edmund Hillary, the first man to scale Mount Everest, searched for evidence of the Yeti. He found what was claimed to be a scalp from the beast, though scientists later determined that the helmet-shaped hide was in fact made from a sero, a Himalayan animal similar to a goat. In 2007, American TV show host Josh Gates claimed he found 3 mysterious footprints in snow near a stream in the Himalayas. Locals were skeptical, suggesting that Gates, who had only been in the area for about a week, simply misinterpreted a bear track. Nothing more was learned about what made the print, and the track can now be found not in a natural history museum but instead in a small display at Walt Disney World. In 2010, hunters in China caught a strange animal that they claimed was a Yeti. This mysterious hairless 4-legged animal was initially described as having features resembling a bear, but was finally identified as a civet, a small cat-like animal that had lost its hair from disease. A finger once revered in a monastery in Nepal and long claimed to be from a Yeti was examined by researchers at the Edinburgh Zoo in 2011. The finger generated controversy among Bigfoot and Yeti believers for decades, until DNA analysis proved that the finger was human, perhaps from a monk's corpse. The next section is the Russian search for Yeti. The Russian government took an interest in the Yeti in 2011 and organised a conference of Bigfoot experts researcher and biologist John Bindernagel claimed that he saw evidence that the Yeti not only existed but also builds nests and shelters out of twisted tree branches. That group made headlines around the world when they issued a statement that they had indisputable proof of the Yeti, and were 95% sure it existed, based on some grey hairs found in a clump of moss in a cave. Bindernagel may have been impressed, but another scientist who participated in the same expedition concluded that the indisputable evidence was in fact hoaxed. Jeff Meldrum, a professor of anatomy and anthropologist at Idaho State University, who endorses the existence of Bigfoot, said that he suspected the twisted tree branches had been faked. Not only was there obvious evidence of tool-made cuts in the supposedly Yeti twisted branches, but also the trees were conveniently located just off a well-travelled trail and hardly in a remote area. Meldrum concluded that the whole Russian expedition was more of a publicity stunt than a serious scientific endeavour, likely designed to increase tourism in the impoverished coal mining region. Despite quasi-official claims of indisputable proof of the Yeti, nothing more has come of the story. The next section is titled DNA Samples. In 2013, Oxford geneticist Brian Sykes put out a call to all Yeti believers and institutions around the world claiming to have a piece of Yeti hair, teeth or tissue taken from a sighting. He received 57 samples, 36 of which were chosen for DNA testing. These samples were then compared with the genomes of other animals stored on a database of all published DNA sequences. Most of the samples turned out to be from well-known animals, such as cows, horses and bears. However, Sykes found that 2 of the samples, one from Bhutan and the other from India, were a 100% match for the jawbone of a Pleistocene polar bear that lived sometime between 40,000 and 120,000 years ago, a period of time when the polar bear and closely related brown bear were separating as species, according to the BBC. Sykes thought the sample was probably a hybrid of a polar bear and a brown bear. See, that's still super cool in my eyes. However, 2 other scientists, Sarah Edwin Edwards and Ross Barnett, conducted a reanalysis of the same data. They said that the sample actually belonged to a Himalayan bear, a rare subspecies of the brown bear. Their study results were published in the Royal Society Journal. Another team of researchers, Roland Pine and Elisa Gutierrez, also analysed the DNA and also concluded that there is no reason to believe that Sykes et al.'s 2 samples came from anything but ordinary brown bears. And in 2017, yet another team of researchers analysed 9 Yeti, in quotation marks, 9 Yeti specimens, including bone, tooth, skin, hair and fecal samples, collected from monasteries, caves and other sites in the Himalayas and Tibetan Plateau. They also collected samples from bears in the region and from animals elsewhere in the world. Of the 9 Yeti samples, 8 were from Asian black bears, Himalayan brown bears or Tibetan brown bears. The 9th was from a dog. The next section is True Believers Undeterred. The lack of hard evidence, despite decades of searches, doesn't deter true believers. The fact that these mysterious creatures haven't been found is not taken as evidence that they don't exist, but instead how rare, reclusive and elusive they are. single body would prove that the Yeti exist, though no amount of evidence can prove they don't exist. For that reason alone, these animals, real or not, will likely always be with us. And that concludes that article, but I don't always like ending on completely disparaging the theory, so I'm gonna find a few more like sightings and accounts of encounters to leave the ending of this video a little bit more ambiguous, I guess. So here we have a sighting from Sonam Isha Sherpa in Nepal in the 1960s. Some of the Sherpas I climbed with had stories about family yaks being attacked and yak herders terrorised by a creature that sounds like the enormous Zute. In 1986, in Namche Bazaar, capital of the Sherpa Khumbu region, I met Sonamisha Sherpa. 20 years previously, he had been grazing his cow crosses, the Zoe, high on a pasture. During the night he heard loud whistling and bellowing while he cowered with fright in a cave with his companions. They were sure they were going to be killed by the Zute after it had finished with their livestock. In the morning, Sonam and his men found that dude Zoe had been killed and eaten. There was no meat or bones remaining, only blood, dung, and intestines. And here we have Major Lawrence Waddell in northern India circa 1889. The first sighting of Yeti footprints by a Westerner was made by the English soldier and explorer Major Lawrence Waddell. He was a professor of Tibetan culture and a professor of chemistry, a surgeon and an archaeologist. It's just greedy, and he had roamed Tibet in disguise. He is thought by some to be the real-life precursor of the film character Indiana Jones. One of his theories included a belief that the beginning of all civilization dated from the Aryan Sumerians, who were blonde Nordics with blue eyes. These theories were later picked up by the German Nazis and led to their expedition to Tibet in 1938-39. While exploring in northeast Sikkim in 1889, Waddell's party came across a set of large footprints, which his servants said were made by the Yeti, a beast that was highly dangerous and fed on humans. Some large footprints in the snow led across our track and away up to the higher peaks. These were alleged to be the trail of the hairy wild men who were believed to live amongst the eternal snows, along with the mythical white lions whose roar is reputed to be heard during storms. The belief in these creatures is universal amongst Tibetans. None, however, of the many Tibetans who I have interrogated on this subject could ever give me an authentic case. On the most superficial investigation, it always resolved into something heard tell of. The so-called hairy wild men are evidently the great yellow snow bear, which is highly carnivorous and often kills yaks. Yet, although most of the Tibetans know this bear sufficiently to give it a wide berth, they live in such an atmosphere of superstition that they are always ready to find extraordinary and supernatural explanations of uncommon events. And we will conclude it there. What I was thinking while I was reading those accounts and stuff is, you know how there's those ASMR channels that do not ASMR in public, but like ASMR in nature and in the wild and whatnot. How amazing would it be if we did our own twist on it, and we did like ASMR searching for the Loch Ness Monster, where we literally go to the loch and ASMR there while we look for the monster, or even better, fly to the Himalayas and look for the Yeti and record an ASMR video.